Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Wednesday high noon. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman here to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. And let's get right to it because we are thrilled to be joined at the top of the show by national reporter James Palmer out in Denver. James, how you doing?
I'm good, guys. It feels like home a little bit right now. I like this. This feels good.
This is it's a nice proxy for you. We will get to your Philly roots. Zach, how are you doing, by the way?
I'm doing great. I'm pumped.
I didn't want to let James stir in the waiting room before I brought him on.
I'm pumped James is on, and I'm always happy when we speak to people from the area who have since moved elsewhere, but they keep the area code because it's a part of them. So I won't give James his number out on the show, but
it's like the first 7 digits.
But he maintains the area code, and as someone who moved and came back, I would not give up that phone number no matter where I went.
No, sticking 610 forever. Come on.
Love that. All right, so we got a lot to talk to you about, James, because you know a lot of the new players here very well. You also have deep connections to this team, so we want to get to all of that. I guess we should start with Vic Fangio. You were up close and personal with him as a head coach. What should Eagles fans expect? I guess schematically, personality-wise, how do you see this whole thing fitting?
Personality-wise, that's a good one, Bo. Yeah, Vic is, and he'll admit it, he's oozing with personality to showcase to everyone. I can't remember how many times we saw him on Hard Knocks with Miami. Was it like once? 0? That was by design. That
one of those ones where like the closed captioning would have just said like grumble. Like
I think it's right. I think it's right actually. He is not one to put himself out there, but I mean, in all honesty, what they're getting, I mean, this scheme and what he's developed is used through most of the NFL, like a good chunk of it in one capacity, and it's morphed into different ways. It's changed how offenses are played. What I think is kind of misunderstood with Vic a little bit is that it's going to be his way or the highway. There's no bending, there's no breaking. That's not really accurate. Like, it's not his opinion on what you run and what the Eagles will run defensively. It's really what you show him you can do and what you show him you can't do, and then he'll mold the defense to that, if that makes sense. If you're a linebacker that wants to blitz and he doesn't see you beat a running back picking you up repeatedly, you're just not going to blitz. If you continue to beat him, he'll blitz mercilessly. He'll just keep coming, like if that's what you show him. So what players need to do is they need to show him what they can and can't do, and then the defense will be molded to that. I think the ability that it's Vic's way or the highway is a little bit misunderstood in a sense. Players care about two things, winning and making as much money as possible, right? I mean, that's pretty evident. I think it falls on the assistants a little bit with Vic, though, in terms of massaging this, going, if you do this, look at what Justin Simmons did at the safety position and the number of picks that he was able to go out and have because he played it the way Vic wanted it to be played and Vic played to his strengths. That's kind of on the assistants that work with Vic a little bit in massaging it, but Vic will do exactly and show you exactly what he wants, but you have to show him that you can do it, and then he'll move things around.
And so to build on that, you mentioned the assistants. Vic really got to pick his staff, which Sean Desai really didn't get the chance to do that per se. The coaches that Vic brought in, I know you know some of them. You've been around some of them. What's going to be the big differences with them under Vic?
That's what I think, Zach, the biggest thing is relaying that message, right? They know what Vic wants out there. Like I said, Vic isn't going to sit there and like, the way it was described to me once by somebody on his staff back in the day was kind of like, well, how does Vic get that message across? How does he convince players to do that? And he was like, Vic doesn't worry about convincing anybody. Like, right. He doesn't worry about convincing anybody at all. Now, he's just going to, like I said, show you how it should be done. You show him what you can do. Now, it's up to the assistants, like, Christian Parker running the backside of that group, who knows Vic really, really well, and I think is one of the better teachers in this league from the buzz I hear about him around the league. That's somebody that Vic would lean on of like, hey, I've coached. You want to know how this is done right? Like, I've coached Pat Surtain. He uses these exact same techniques, and that's how it works. They kind of relay that message, Zach, for Vic, and I think that's why it's important that he was able to pick kind of his guys and have a say. That was a big part of Vic coming to Philadelphia. Obviously, it's coming home for him, and huge Phillies fan, rock on, they're rock solid. But it was a big deal for that to happen, so it can be done the way that it works at its highest level if that makes sense for Vic and his group.
So as we think about Vic's like gruffness, right? And you heard the reports out of Miami last year that he did not get along well with some of those guys, especially in the secondary. That was maybe an awkward fit with Mike McDaniel. Nick Sirianni has never worked with a coach of like this gravitas as one of his coordinators. It has always been guys who were sort of on the come up like him, teachers by trade, right? What do you like? What do you expect from that fit between those two guys that, frankly, was probably a little bit Frankensteined in at like Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie's behest?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I don't know why I was thinking about this and thinking about Kansas City a little bit, Bo, while you were saying that. But it's like, I wonder if there'll be a little bit of an approach with Spags where it's like, just let him run inside. Like, kind of just let him do his thing. There's a track record with both guys in terms of what they've done. And I'm curious to see how much Nick wants to be like, maybe if we just let Vic be Vic on his side of the ball, like that might be what's best for us. And it might be, honestly. Now, I think sometimes when you have a guy that has, gravitas was a good word, or has, kind of the machismo that Vic kind of has on one side of the ball, like, I think you can hurt yourself by meddling sometimes. I think you might have to pick your spots because I think the track record is so deep that if he does do it the right way, it is going to have success. I do think that the unit talent-wise is above and beyond what it was a year ago, and now you, coaching-wise, are above and beyond what you were a year ago. I know that when a lot of these coaches were coming in, Nick was very honest with them about what happened on that side of the ball, about the blame that he took for some of the decisions that were made by him on that side of the ball, and that meant a lot to a lot of guys, including Vic, that were coming in on that side. So that gave me a little bit of a thought that maybe you let Vic go be Vic on that side until you have to see a reason or a time that you got to come in and step in.
It's funny to think about because, like, if Nick is not as involved in the offense, but he's not going to be doing stuff with Vic, like, what's he doing? But
he's the chief morale officer, right? But no, we've talked for the past 3 years, honestly, that the Eagles have chased this scheme, right? And now they get the originator. They don't get. Obviously, Sean Desai was the pupil. It seemed Jonathan Gannon was using elements of that scheme. But what types of players, whether it's on the Eagles roster or players that he's had in the past, particularly thrive in this scheme?
I think versatile players. I do, specifically on the back end. Like, I'm really curious to see what they do with Cooper DeJean because I think that type of player, now they don't really know where he's going to play. I know that there's a thought that he could even line up some at safety from some people in that building. They do think, and they're not alone in this, during the draft, it was like, how do you use him? Is he a Kyle Hamilton type of piece? Is he, a guy that plays inside? Because a lot of teams, and the Eagles weren't alone in this, thought that, and I'm going on a tangent in a second on Cooper, but I got to do this, is like, in terms of spatial awareness, vision, field vision, all of these things, he was kind of the best of the corner group. Is he the best corner? No. But in those traits, enough people around the league thought that he was maybe the top of the class in those traits. To me, those are valued in Vic's scheme. I really do. I know outside corners can play outside and lock and do things out there. But when you have the other pieces that can mix things up and move guys around, I think that is important for the way that Vic plays. I brought up Justin once, and I know probably everybody in Philly is curious about Justin Simmons, right?
We
that
put
he's
out
still
the tweet
out there.
That you're coming on, and we're getting like, ask him about Justin Simmons. Ask him about Justin Simmons.
Yeah,
so we'll ask him about Justin Simmons.
It's a really, and we can talk about it. He's a really perfect example. I mean, he's a guy that can play in the box. He's a guy that can play deep. Since he came into the league, nobody has more interceptions than him, not safeties, players. And that's a lot because of Vic and how Vic used him and how he was able to be disguised and moved around. Like I said, if you can do a lot of things, Vic will have you do a lot of things. You just need to show him that. And I think that's why versatility, specifically on that back end, is extremely important because there also are players, and I know like Draymond Jones, who was with the Broncos? Yeah. And now Seattle. He got really frustrated playing in this scheme. It wasn't like I can't attack. I can't go downfield as an interior pass rusher. That's not what he wants me to do. And he would get frustrated. Well, back to what I'm saying, I'm kind of curious too. Like, well, maybe he didn't think you could get downfield. Like maybe that's why he didn't have you go after the quarterback. I think Draymond has a little bit more talent to go after the quarterback than maybe he was used. It's my personal opinion, but I'm not gonna say I know more football than Vic, right? But like, I think that's kind of the two sides that you see. There are going to be players that get frustrated because they think they can do more than what they're being used for. But players that show him all these different ways they can be used, those will be showcased.
But that's an interesting thing to bookmark for Jalen Carter, I feel
exactly,
like, right?
Yeah. The whole point with Jalen Carter
right.
is to get to the quarterback.
Right.
Exactly. Now that's the thing. I do think, like the example I used in the beginning, Bo, like is if Jalen Carter is going to show that he's winning repeatedly on the inside, they're going to set it up on the defensive front to make sure that continues.
And Devin White actually talked about this last week, about how like he's heard that he's going to have to prove to Vic that he can be effective as a blitzer if he wants to blitz, and he hasn't had a chance to show that yet. And he's sort of getting in his ear like he wants to have a chance to show that. So at least
doesn't that sound weird? But it sounds accurate, right? Like it sounds like that's what you should have to do as a player.
Right.
Like, man, I feel like I got to really show this. Well, yeah, you do.
Right. How about the Justin Simmons follow-up? What's going on there?
From my understanding, I don't see anything happening anytime soon. I think from what I've gathered, he knows his market. He knows the pay is not going to be what he has made in the past, and he's made plenty in the past. I think that's why you're seeing him be patient, because it's not going to change between now and the closer to camp at all, right? The market's not going to shift, and he's going to get some ridiculous payday. He knows that, so he knows he can be patient. He knows he can look around. He knows he can look for the best fit. There have been offers out there. Obviously, there have been teams that have tried to go after him, but I think he is kind of trying to pick that spot with, I don't want to speak for Justin, but like the dude's gone through a lot of losing and a lot of coaching changes. And I think that is playing a part in this about where he lands. And I know the lines of communication are still open with a lot of places that were interested the first time around. But I think he's being smart with it. And my thought and belief right now is nothing happens in the immediate future right now, because nothing's going to change in terms of the landscape of the market.
I'm always curious when I speak to someone like you who covers the whole league that, one thing is you'll be in Philly and then you might be in Denver the next day. And people in Denver will want to know, all right, what's going on in Philly, right? And it's kind of the cool thing about national reporters. So what's kind of the buzz on the Eagles organization right now elsewhere in the league? We're so locked in on what people in Philly think. What do people elsewhere think about the Eagles right now?
I don't know if people know this, the way the front office is thought about of Zach, because like there really are two schools of thought in the NFL, right? There's like the front office that's really scout driven, and it's film, and it's a scouting background, and that's what they do. And we need to see what's on tape, and that's the way we go. And then there's that analytic Harvard, Yale style that we're seeing around the league, where it's the numbers tell us this, and we're going to play the probabilities, and we're going to put it all in the machine that's going to fire out what we're looking at, and this is what we're going to do. The Eagles, in a lot of people around the league's opinion, is they're like the one team that does both almost like 50-50. Like I would say the way Howie is thought of is most GMs are one of the two that I just described. I'm not saying Howie's looking at film like, some of these scouts look at it, but I would say he looks at a lot and he studies a lot, yet he still has the other side and the numbers side. And I think what makes them stand apart, and it's funny, I was talking to somebody in a front office in the NFC like a couple days ago, and he was like, I was trying to describe, because every front office is looking at every other front office, trying to steal and figure out how they do it. And he was like, I was describing to the guys in the room what Philly does, and it was like, they're not scared to make mistakes, and they have a plan if the mistake happens, how they're going to correct it. And there's so much fear, he said, in this league, right? Of like, well, if I pick the wrong guy, admitting that I picked the wrong guy to ownership is just like telling my boss I effed up. Like nobody in the NFL loves to say, you know what? Every GM is telling the owner, man, he's going to come around. He's going to come around. This is going to work. Like it's very refreshing in some people around the leagues, or maybe envious around the league, of how Howie and company will say, nah, this didn't work. Like, let's move on. And we're going to fix it by doing this. And I think that's what makes Philly a little bit different than some of these other places. And I think, to me, talking to people in front offices around the league, if you do it the same as everybody else, like you got a pretty damn good chance of just staying in the middle.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Dallas, for instance, doesn't take a whole lot of chances, like a whole lot of risks. They never bottom out really, but they haven't been able to get to here. And maybe there's a safety net in just staying in there, and Jerry makes $1 gazillion and being relevant all the time. But like, Philly has an ability to find ways to try things that are outside the box, and there's no fear of trying them. And I think that's what makes them different than a lot of teams in this league.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's almost like once you get good enough, you know, Howie has the luxury of knowing that Jeffrey has his back, and so he has the freedom to make those mistakes, right? It's like once you just sort of cross that threshold, then you get that freedom. The other thing I want to ask you about with Howie is something that we have talked about on the show, is just like, from a national reporter perspective, there is the information marketplace in the league, right? You know, GMs and reporters talking to each other, sharing information. And Howie has been at this so long. It is a great strength of his. Can you talk to that at all about like how important that is to him? Because he says the thing that keeps him up at night is like the idea that he might not know that someone is available, right? Like that he might miss something. So how important is that to his success, do you think?
I think it's everything. I think it's part of their draft process too. What's like a little bit of an offshoot of that is like, one of the things, and this came back to me talking about them with you bringing that up, Bo, is like they never write players off. Like they in the draft process, they never do that, and that happens in a lot of buildings. Like the initial couple reports come in, and it's like, nah, this guy isn't for us. They circle back all the time and go, let's double check and make sure maybe he is for us. Maybe this, you know, this scouting report is a little bit different than a couple of the other ones that come in, and Howie always circles back to make sure. And it's in the same vein of being like, I don't want to make sure that I don't miss that this guy's available. I don't want to eliminate a lot of guys off my board too early. I want to make sure that they're all available. So they circle back a lot, and he circles back a lot in the national landscape of players being available. I don't think anybody calls more probably than Howie Roseman. I don't know how you guys do it actually in the market. I want to ask you, because like, it's got to be, do you report every time like Howie Roseman called about so-and-so? Because like he calls about everybody. Like it's kind of do you report all that?
That's kind of a big joke we have is that like the easiest headline leading into the draft is that Howie's looking to move up, because all Howie does is move up. Like if you say breaking news, Howie's just gonna stay where he is, he's not trying to trade, like that would be the headline more so than Howie's working the phones.
Well, it's like this year they end up staying at the pick, but like obviously he had called like every pick to see what it would take and talk to the teams behind. Like, of course, he wants to know what the cost is going to be in every situation.
Yeah, and I do know, talking to other teams, like he is a master poker player in, like, I know Atlanta thought a little bit that they were interested in Bijan. And I think everybody in Philly was probably like, I mean, like Howard bet his life on it or something, right? Like, I think everybody in Philly is kind of like, he doesn't do that. But like, he somehow made Atlanta believe that he was interested in Bijan. Like, he plays the game really, really well. And I think if you work as hard as Howie does and make as many phone calls as he does, it's pretty easy to cover your tracks because you called on everybody. So like, how do you give a couple of breadcrumbs that you're headed in this direction when you called everything? So I think it's kind of the better way to work. It was like, I'm sitting here in Denver and we mentioned it, like if John Elway showed up somewhere, it was like, well, John ain't going on the plane just to go on the plane.
Right.
Like, that is not John Elway. So you were like, we should read into this a little bit. Like, how he's going to call everybody. Eagles are going to be everywhere. And I think that's probably, to blanket the league, the best way to go about it, because there are plenty of teams that think Howie's doing one thing and he ends up doing something else.
Go ahead.
Yeah, as a follow-up to that, the offseason that they had now, this is my first chance catching up with you about this, because I last saw you at the Combine, adding Saquon. Obviously, we expected them to kind of move off of Hassan Reddick or potentially do that, but then bringing in Bryce Huff, bringing back C.J. Gardner-Johnson, some of these other moves they made, acting early on the contract extensions. What jumped out to you about the offseason that they just had?
I think the Saquon deal, Zach, is number one to me, in all honesty, just because it was an outside-of-the-box thought for how Howie works. But really, if you know Howie, and I know you guys do, it's what does my coaching staff want? What does my OC want? And I'll try to get him that. To me, that was him really listening to Kellen and really understanding what Kellen wants and making that happen. And going maybe away from what some people believe are his tendencies, but listening to his offensive coordinator and going, well, he really thinks if we have this piece, we're a different offense, and he can do all of the things, Kellen can do all the things that he wants to do with this group. I'm going to make that happen. To me, Howie listening to Kellen in that sense of what would make this offense work stood out big time. Some of the other ones were things at the combine you mentioned that I had kind of heard. I heard Huff was like pretty much, going to happen. Reddick, that type of situation with those guys. I mean, I know they looked around at a lot of other guys. I know it was close with Justin Simmons and CJ Gardner-Johnson
Interesting.
at the safety spot. I know age played a part in that decision. Because when you're trying to change your identity, and nothing against Justin, it's kind of like the Justin Simmons podcast, but like nothing against Justin. He's one of my favorite people in the league and one of the best human beings on the planet. And still, I think a great safety. You don't tell everybody you want to get younger and faster as a defense, and then one of the first moves you make is a 30-year-old safety. Like, that just kind of goes against what you're trying to put out there. I think that did really play a part in kind of the decision between the two. But Saquon was the one that really jumped out at me because of everything that went with that move.
That is also interesting, the Justin Simmons angle, to keep the Justin Simmons things going. From the you would think that if Vic had like pounded the table and been like, this is the guy that I want to lead my defense, that Howie would have followed suit, right? So it's interesting that Vic was at least open to.
I know there was a lot, and I know that kind of happened, but there was a lot of different things that went into play on how you were picking some of these pieces. And at that time, now this part, I don't even know, how different was the money? How different was every aspect that you're looking to do? You know what I mean? So there are a variety of I guess, boxes that were being checked on both sides between everybody.
I'm a little just blown away by like the professionalism from James. I mean, the backdrop is so fantastic.
Yeah.
We talked about the painting, the audio quality, the shot. What a pro.
Yeah.
Guys, how many people come on here like full IFB? Like, thrown in.
Full IFB.
No AirPods.
And the pinned mic. I mean, you got it all going on.
Guys, come on. This is a professional setup here. I'm not going to sit here and willy-nilly this thing in with you guys. This is a big deal for me.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Are we still hitting on the Eagles?
You want to talk Philly? Go ahead.
Or can we talk Philly? Okay.
Let's go.
Anything else on the Eagles? Because I love talking Philly with people.
Well, anything? I think the one thing on the team that I'm really most fascinated about is we kind of touched on Cooper, but like how the competition at corner really plays out. And I think that they're waiting for camp, to my understanding, to see these things play out. And it could be a variety of things of who loses out on the second corner spot might be who plays nickel. Honestly, like it could be that, and somebody else, there's the competition, and then somebody else shines in nickel, somebody else plays safe. Bradberry's been back there at safety for a long time, which is kind of funny, but just nobody in the media has seen it, just because for one reason or another he wasn't, at practice for what'd you guys get, 3 OTAs?
We got 2 OTAs and then 3 days of mandatory minicamp.
Yeah, and then he gets the groin injury, right, and he can't participate in minicamp. So like. It was established pretty early, like that he was going to go back there. Just no media had seen it, and nobody really knew about it, which is kind of funny.
That's a good nugget.
And so him back there, and Avante maybe playing some safety, and then moving these different guys around. I think the back end and how it shakes out is going to be my favorite part of training camp, and hopefully I can get there for some days to kind of see how it all goes.
Well, and it's interesting also because somebody sort of touched on this in the chat. I don't think that this is necessarily intentional from Howie, but for so long, the defense has been built front to back. And right now, the structure of it, just where the investments are, I mean, they've still got Jalen Carter. They still paid Bryce Huff a lot of money. They've still got Josh Sweat, Jordan Davis, first-round picks. But talent-wise, it feels like at least the focus is right now back to front as opposed to the traditional Howie structure.
Exactly. And I think those guys up front, I mean, like there's a lot on them, like a lot. They're not as deep as they've been in years past. I think there's a lot on that group up front that needs to perform.
So when we've had people like, whether it's Colleen Wulf, Andy McCall, different guests who grew up here and then go elsewhere, the thing I'm fascinated about, and you grew up steeped in kind of the Philly media culture as well, is what's different as a sports consumer, as just a person, when you're used to the way it is here, and then you go to Houston and you go to Denver. Like is it as pronounced as it seems, or am I making too much of it? Like, are we in Philly that much different?
Oh yeah, it's different. It is definitely different. My comps to some extent would be Chicago and Boston, in terms of just the 24-hour local sports talk. Like, nobody in Philly's listening to a schlub like me, like a national like show in their car. Like, they're not. They're listening to what happens in Philly. Like, that's the way all of Philadelphia works. Like, I truly believe two of my best buddies that are cops in Philly could be on WIP. Like that, like from our conversations, I'm like, this is all you guys think about. You sit in your cruiser all day and you just, you want to, and you listen to sports talk radio and you listen to everything that's getting put out there. There's a different, I think, fandom. I think there's a different education to the fan. There's a different, I don't want to say criticalness, but there's I expect this from you as a player in our city to do this. And if you do it, like, you will be rewarded. I think it was while I was like pulling my hair out and dying with the Sixers in the postseason, which was just a terrible, terrible run, in my opinion, and just a frustrating team to watch. Like, JJ Redick said, I think on one of the broadcasts, he's like, there's no better place to play and he played a lot of places. Like, he's like, there's no better place I've ever played. There's also like no worse place I've ever played. Like, right. I mean, like, and it's kind of true, but like he did say, like, if you do things the right way, you're rewarded. And I think it's because the fans are somewhat, I mean, they probably drive you guys nuts sometimes, but like, they're educated. They know more, I think, than some of these fans, and not to down the rest of the country, but there's a different commitment, I want to say, time commitment from the fan in Philly.
So is the rest of the house joining you in the Philly fandom, or is it Denver?
So we had to make decisions like on this. So like, my wife is from California and Denver, like back and forth.
Okay.
So her dad was a huge Broncos fan, so she's Broncos. And then she told our son, like, you can be everything else dad does, but football, you're with the Broncos.
Oh, that seems
so like fair. So I got Ohio State, and I got the Phillies, and I got, like, we went to the series here in Denver, went to 2 of the 3 games. We go to the 2 games they lost. Bryce Harper gets thrown out in the first. My son's like devastated. Like, he's like crushed. We're sitting there in the stands. He's like, well, this is my favorite player. I get to see him once a year. This stinks. And so he's Philly on everything, but she told him, like, this is my one team, Broncos. We're going Broncos. But like, I think the last few years, he's probably like eyeing the Eagles like quite a bit with what's going on in Denver and the shuffling going on in this city.
What was 13-year-old James Palmer like as a Philly sports fan?
I was a loon for the Phillies. Number one. I loved basketball. Great. I mean, Philadelphia is such a great basketball town. I got my ass kicked by like ridiculous players in high school. Like, really, really good players. Like, my first start in high school at Upper Merion, my sophomore year, was against Matt Carroll. And I thought I did a good job, and then he dropped like 32. I think he missed like 2 shots.
Habro Horseman.
Like, Habro Horseman. That's Colleen Wulf.
Yeah.
I did not get a hand in his face. Like, 6 foot, 150-pound James Palmer did not get a hand in Matt Carroll's face. But like, all the, like, Jameer Nelson, all those guys, like, they destroyed me in high school. But like, I even younger than 13, Zach, like, I would wear my full hockey like pads to a Flyers game at like 9 years old. Like, what kid walks in with like a helmet, a Flyers, a Dave Poulin jersey, and like their gloves and like their elbow pads? Like, I thought they're like, we need him, on the 4th line. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't gonna play, but I would come in all of my pads.
Well, but you definitely weren't going to play if you weren't suited up. I mean,
yeah, exactly. They weren't even going to look at me if I didn't have the gear on. So I was always kind of like, hey, this guy's over here. He's got a CCM gloves on. He's ready to roll. But it was like Philly sports everything. It was going to St. Joe's basketball camp, John Chaney basketball camp. Like, hoops was a big deal for me at like that age. Then I realized, after getting waxed in high school all the time, like, it was the end of it. But hoops and baseball were the 2 that I really, really like, was everything to me. And that's why, like, the Vet and getting a chance to play at the Vet as a high school kid was like the coolest thing in the world, just because I worshiped that place. So yeah, it was basketball and baseball were like the top for me, like everything. I thought Von Hayes was a god. Him and Darren Dalton just.
And so when work brings you back to Philly, what are the spots you need to hit?
Well, my parents live like out in Wayne, King of Prussia area, so I gotta I don't go to the mall, but I gotta go out and see the parents, and then I'll see a lot of my buddies that live in like, the Conchie area and stuff, and I got one of my best friends that I played all 3 sports with, actually, coming out here with him and his family next week. So like I stay like at the Notary, like right downtown by City Hall, and try to like hit up a bunch of different like local spots that I love, like little hole in the wall joints. And usually it's with like it's the buddies' wives that don't mind. Like it's the same 3 that I know I can call every time. Then I'm like, hey, I'm in town. We're going out. And like the other ones are like, nah, man, I got like 4 kids. It ain't happening. Like, and that call just doesn't happen anymore. I know my crew from home growing up with that can roll with me each night I'm back home.
All right.
The comment in the chat right now is this guy gets it. So yeah. You're speaking to your people right now. We appreciate
these are my. Hey, listen, these are my people. These are my best friends. This is everybody. You know how many like group chats I am on about the Phillies, like that I don't see every game, but I'm like I know everything that's happening from like 4 different group chats about everything that's happening with Realmuto and everything that's happening. I mean, a lot of love for Stubbs, guys. A lot of love for Stubby coming in there. From all of my boys.
There's a bit of a risk of overexposure now over the next month, but
I think there is.
We'll see how that goes.
I think there is. I don't know. JT's been getting beat up lately, though. Like he needs I mean, I know the knee aside, but man, he's been taking some shots lately. He needs a little break.
Well, James, thank you so much for the insight. We'll let you get going to Broncos minicamp, but we really appreciate all the insight.
Guys, I'm going to tell you, like, just talking the players we just talked about, and we didn't even talk about, like, A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith and Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata and all of these, like, there is a talent drop-off to the practice I'm about to go attend. I'm serious. Like, this is what do you – before I go, real quick, like, where do you guys put this roster talent-wise in the league? Like, it's top 3.
I would say top 5 for sure. But I think that's.
I think there are more questions on the lines of scrimmage than they've had in the past. If they are what they think they can be on the defensive line, and if at center and right guard they're where they want to be, then I think they can be really good. But usually you say, all right, they're set on the lines. Let's see how they are on the back end. Or let's see how they are at some of these other spots. They have more questions on the lines of scrimmage than they've had in the past.
And I would just say, like, it was still a top 5 roster in December and January, and it didn't necessarily work out well. So they still have some work to do in terms of proving it.
Yeah, it didn't go great down the stretch. I think I was at that last one against the Giants. Yeah, I think I was with you guys, right? I think week 18.
Yes, yeah, that was another
New York.
Yep.
Yeah, that was yikes. That was brutal. All right, guys, this was a blast. This was wonderful.
So much.
You have an open invitation.
I don't like the Penn State. I don't like the Penn State pennant back there, being a Buckeye, but I'll let it.
You know what? A little inside baseball. We'd like to get that one replaced as well, but that's okay.
Not my wife. She's a Penn Stater, but some other people.
What would you put up in place?
Well, we had a Brian Dawkins one there before. But I mean, there's some love for Temple. People want Temple there. We don't have to curry favor, but just a picture of Zach's face is what I would like.
Or a Palestra just to please everybody.
That's perfect. That's what I would want. The Palestra.
That's what I would do. Yeah. All right, boys.
All right. Thank you so much.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Oh, come on. Let's do it. See ya.
All right. Well, now I'm going to take the opportunity to tell you guys about our friends at Sleep Healthy PA, and that is Dr. Andrew Cohen. At Sleep Healthy PA, they are committed to helping Philadelphia residents stop the snore and find solutions for sleep apnea that will allow you to rest well and improve your health. Here's what causes sleep apnea. We've talked about this over the past couple days. There's a choke point in the throat that causes snoring, kind of like a kink in a garden hose. And what Dr. Andrew Cohen can do is work on fixing that kink. Dr. Andrew Cohen is a board-certified person in dental sleep medicine, and his staff will work one-on-one with you to provide first-class care that will meet your needs. Many physicians aren't equipped to provide other options outside of CPAP machines. More than anything, Dr. Andrew Cohen just wants to see his patients healthy, and you can be one of those patients. His team is committed to stopping the snore. Tell him PHLY sent you and receive 15% off your initial workup. The process is a 2-hour initial exam split into 2 sessions. You got the information gathering with the medical history and the imaging, all that good stuff. And then you've got the reviewing of the results and the sharing of recommendations. If you are experiencing sleep apnea and are looking for a custom solution to stop the snore, reach out to Dr. Andrew Cohen at sleephealthypa.com or call 337-2501. Tell him PHLY sent you.
As much as I like speaking to people, I really like efficiency. And when you have a prescription and it's running out and it's not automatically refilled, you got to make this call and you got to make that call. That's not efficient. That is inefficient. Well, that's why I want to tell you about Rite Aid Pharmacy Services, because with a My Pharmacy account at Rite Aid, you can refill your prescription, schedule a vaccine, get personalized care recommendations, sign up for prescription notifications, and all you need to do to get started is a prescription at Rite Aid. Get started at riteaid.com/mypharmacy. I don't mind when I can do everything online, and you can enroll in the automated courtesy refills. It's free, it's easy, and most prescriptions qualify. You talk with your Rite Aid pharmacist or sign up through your My Pharmacy account at riteaid.com. Restrictions may apply. And if your prescriptions are elsewhere, don't worry, because you can manage prescriptions with the Rite Aid mobile app. You can transfer or refill your prescription, so it's all right there at Rite Aid. You can set up medication reminders, enroll in prescription notifications. You just need to download from the Apple App Store or Google Play. Transfer your prescriptions to Rite Aid today. Just go to riteaid.com/transfer. Rite Aid caring pharmacists are ready to answer your questions and help you stay healthy. Get your prescriptions along with anything at Rite Aid you may need, including over-the-counter medicine, household products, cosmetics, and more. Just ask your pharmacy team for details. Restrictions apply.
I think it's fair to say that James was pretty bullish on the Eagles, the quality of the roster there. So why don't we put on our rose-colored sunglasses, Zach, and
Roseman-colored sunglasses.
There you go, and explain to the people why the future is bright for the Philadelphia Eagles and a very high-quality roster brought to you by Shady Rays. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY at checkout or 35% off polarized sunglasses. It's for 35% off. We got to adjust this copy. There's a small typo there. We're going to fix that. But I think it's fair to say that James is pretty bullish on this team, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's the perspective that is always good to get from people outside the market, because you can sometimes forget that it's not the norm to have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith at wide receiver, and Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson as your offensive tackles, right? And that if one of your questions is how's this edge rusher who had double-digit sacks last year going to do in a full-time role this year, or can this other edge rusher who's 27 years old and has been like a two-time Pro Bowler, or can he rebound this year? And can your top 10 defensive tackle emerge into one of the top defensive tackles in the league? Like, oh, and by the way, you just signed a running back who might be one of the top 5 players in his position in the league, right? This is a roundabout way of saying is that there's a lot of talent here, and there are a lot of teams that are either rebuilding or they're in that constant state of like trying to get to the top half of the league. And the Eagles are one of those teams that they've been in the top half of the league, and now you're trying to get into the top, 5 of the league. It's a good situation when you compare. I understand expectations are high in Philly, but if you put this team in like Jacksonville right now, or Denver right now, I mean, those fans would say, "Man, I didn't know we have it this good."
Fair enough.
They would say the
Don't you
outlook's
think
bright.
that I know that Les said this when he was on with us last month, but it is kind of funny that it's like all of these things. What if? Jalen Hurts just like it really so much comes down to just Jalen Hurts. Like,
that's always the analysis. Like I say that a lot of years.
We can't do a show every single day.
And just say, what if your quarterback's good?
Well, it's all depending on Jalen Hurts. But.
Exactly. Like, I remember for those 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, and this was the one 2 years ago, and we're going through matchup by matchup, and like, how are they going to defend Juju here, and can you exploit these safeties or whatever it may be? And it's like, well, if Patrick Mahomes is great, then you're going to have a hard time winning. And Patrick Mahomes was great in the second half of that game. So it's a simplistic way to do it, but it's also, happy Tom Brady Day to all those who celebrate. He's getting honored tonight. Bo keeps a straight face.
Get your HGH injections ready.
But there was always those thinking, or there was always that thinking that when he's on your side, like you can have all these other questions on your team. He'll figure out a way. And it's simplistic to put it that way, but the quarterback has such an outsized role in any conversation.
A couple interesting things I think are worth pulling apart from what we heard from James. Very good. He did a fantastic job. The actual having some factual reporting that the Eagles were like on the fence about Justin Simmons or C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and that they were really looking into Justin Simmons, I think is interesting and one to follow.
Yeah, that is a good one. And we had done, we did the free agency quackatology, and what James said there is something we kept going back to, that they want to get younger, they want to get faster, and they've had. I understand some of their best players in the past that have been older players, Kelsey. And Cox and Brandon Graham and Lane Johnson. But if you just sort their roster by age right now, they don't have a lot of these older guys. And in the past, they've signed some of these 30-plus-year-olds to one-year deals. They haven't done that as much this year, besides your boy Devontae Parker. But for the most part,
your boy Paris Campbell,
but he's what, 26, right?
Okay.
So they have tried to get younger this year.
Yeah,
and I imagine that was a factor there.
Okay. People are talking about how we've got a nice
contrast,
white-black thing going on here. Good cop, bad cop, sort of like man in white, man in black, a little Lost thing going on. You're the bad guy.
You look sharp there. That's like that's the Cape Cod look, right? That's
not the Cape Cod look.
Is that like a Cape Cod? That's like I've never been to Cape Cod. It's just a regular
actually. Polo shirt.
Oh, okay.
What makes the Cape Cod look?
I think that I associate.
You're a Mr. Beach shirt over here. Don't come at me.
Beach shirt,
not that one, but you are the Mr. Beach shirt. Somebody in the chat said that they wore a similar linen shirt, and someone else at their office asked them if they were going to the beach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that.
That's just people who are not up to date on style, right?
I guess so.
Yeah, you got to read the latest issue of GQ magazine.
Just a white shirt.
No, it's like that's a compliment. That's like you're going out to eat in Cape Cod. That's
why is that a compliment?
Is there something wrong with Cape? I don't know.
It's not either good nor bad, but why is it a compliment?
It means you look nice. You look sharp today. Yeah, you're 38. You're day after your birthday.
What are you talking about?
Giving you a compliment. Someone says, "Are you tan? Did you spend more time outside?" I know you walk to the office. You get tan.
Yeah, I think I just was outside this weekend. I don't feel not something that I was consciously working on.
Cousin Grace says, "Is that a birthday present shirt?"
No.
Okay.
No, this shirt has been in the rotation.
Okay. All right. That shirt's probably, I was going to say top of the pile, but that shirt hangs.
This shirt does hang. That's right. Yeah. How about that one?
No, this is a pile shirt. This was top of the pile this morning. Yep.
Okay. What kind of drawer situation are we talking about?
What do you mean, what kind of drawer situation?
When you say top of the pile, what's the pile like?
There's two drawers in the pile. Oh, I'm sorry, 2 piles in the drawer. I got that inverted. There's
you and Emily share a dresser, or do you have your own dresser?
We have our own dresser.
You have separate dressers. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not particularly clean on my I'll throw my stuff in to the drawer.
Yes.
Right.
Difference between cleanliness and tidiness.
Not clean. Yeah.
You're untidy.
Yeah. Sorry. That's more. So that's
you're not
that's
throwing
what
dirty clothes on.
No. Thank you. But like, what are her pet peeves is if you open my drawer, it's not like folded perfectly in there. Where if you looked at her drawers, it's like,
right.
I mean, it's like if you go to a department store, it is like, it's
Ain't
like
nobody got time for
perfectly.
that.
Yeah. Well, she does. Like she's very meticulous.
Now your dresser, are we talking? Is it a classic 3 levels? Top level is 2 smaller ones, and then you got 2 wide ones on level 2, level 3.
I have 2. I have shorts, t-shirts, boxers, socks, and then I have 2 t-shirt drawers. 2 t-shirts.
How many drawers are we talking about?
There's 8 drawers.
Oh, 8 drawers.
There's
interesting. So 4 levels, 2 by 4.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tall one.
I mean, they're not like huge drawers.
Okay. So 8 drawers, and so on the top level, what do you got? Boxers in one, socks in the other.
Yes.
Okay. Second level, what do we got?
T-shirts
On both sides.
No, t-shirts on this side, and then shorts are on. Yeah. So
second from the top, there are 2 drawers, right?
no, so there's 6 drawers. Then there's 2 like small drawers at the top, like those thin ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are 4 levels of the dresser,
Yes.
right? The top level has 2 different
Has 2 thin
drawers.
drawers.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second level and the third
that's
level and
where,
the
like-
fourth level all have 1 big drawer, or
We're really getting too hard. Yeah, there's shorts. There's 2 drawers with shorts, 2 drawers with t-shirts, 1 drawer with boxers, 1 drawer with socks, and then 1 like these small ones are like there's like cufflinks.
I see.
Like,
okay. So it's really like
like a
3
boat-
levels, but then there's like a half level.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, do you delineate in the
Seriously.
2 t-shirt drawers? Is there any difference between?
Yeah. Actually,
Okay.
there's the
So
t-shirts.
like a nice t-shirt drawer. And
Yeah,
then
there's t-shirts that I would like the linen shirt, and this
Okay,
shirt, t-shirts
okay.
that I would wear on a show,
Okay.
and then there's t-shirts when I'm just kind of like playing ball with my son.
Okay.
or-
And you do keep them separate.
Yes, I keep them.
That's
separate.
smart.
Yeah, she actually labeled them, so
Okay.
yeah. So I know what to put. what
Now
drawer.
within, I know you said you're untidy in the
Oh,
drawers.
seriously, we were spending way too much time on this here.
But within the drawers, now
Yeah.
when you're putting them in, there is the
Yeah, well, we
there
can
is
get to
the-
your drawers.
there's the stackable fold, or is there's like the this is a newfangled thing where like
Oh,
you
yeah, no,
fold it
the-
and show, and it's like facing up, and
yeah,
you see the logo.
no,
that
no,
way.
no, stackable.
Stackable fold, yeah,
stackable
the
fold.
classic, yeah.
Yeah, stackable.
Less
fold. So-
efficient, but easier to
So
do.
when I say top shirt on the pile, I'm not paying attention to like, oh, I wore this last Thursday, right? I actually want to I want to reduce the amount of like decisions that I would be okay
decision fatigue.
if I find,
you're going hinky
like,
style on me.
4 shirts and just rotate them, and
Okay.
I'd be cool. But so anyways, when the shirt's on top of the pile, that's what I put on. So I decide.
You're not doing digging through the pile. You're going.
I don't dig through the pile.
Interesting.
That's how it gets untidy.
Right.
Honestly, if I just stick to the top shirt on the pile, it doesn't get untidy. Anyways, let's talk about your drawer.
Well, hold on. I have
situation.
one last.
Oh,
The
no.
2 different shorts drawers. Any difference in the shorts?
Well, yeah, it's like the
Same thing. There's a nice shorts and
Yeah, it's like the sports shorts that you'd
Oh,
wear,
okay,
and then
yeah.
like
Workout shorts.
like the khaki, or like they're I used to call them khaki shorts. Now they're kind of it's more like it's a different material. What's the I don't know what they're
wearing
called
like
tech
that,
shorts.
that tech short.
Yeah, they're called tech shorts. Yeah, but you would wear it to like a practice.
Why do they call it the tech short? Is it
I don't
this
know,
Is like
yeah,
it's
so-
like a Silicon Valley thing. Like it looked like a
Yeah.
Look
If
like a
it is,
coder,
then I'm
right?
more into it. Then
yeah,
right.
of course. No wonder
But-
you want the tech shorts. Yeah.
Yeah. But so I have shorts that I would wear to football practice, or if I went out to dinner in the summer, that kind of thing. And then I have shorts that I would wear if I'm playing ball with my son. that
Okay.
kind of thing. What about what's your
I'm
drawer
working with
situation?
working with 3 levels.
Okay.
Top level is 2 different drawers. You got the boxers in one, socks in the socks in the other. Oh, no, I'm wrong. I have socks in a different in the closet. Boxers
Ah.
in one, undershirts like
Oh,
white
okay.
undershirts in the other. Then second row you got
I didn't know you're an
the
undershirt
shirts.
guy. You're an undershirt guy.
Sometimes.
Okay.
I don't. That drawer doesn't get as much use in the winter.
Yeah.
Certainly under like a sweater.
Oh yeah,
Oftentimes
yeah. Sure.
you wear a wear a V-neck undershirt.
Yes.
Second row
You're a
is
V-neck guy, that's true.
Second,
Yeah.
yeah. Nobody wants to see your undershirt.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second row is t-shirts. Third row is shorts and pants.
Did not have
But
this.
not like nice pants, like pajama pants or something
There
like
you
that. Yeah.
You're
Or sweatpants.
a pajama pants guy.
I have a couple pair of
Okay.
pajama pants for the
Interesting.
winter. Yeah, I'm not
Interesting.
like going to bed like a
You were-
sash on my head every night, but walking around the house sometimes to wear a nice LL Bean fleece pant. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't take you for a pajama. Actually, I could see that as a pajama guy.
Leisure at home, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just wearing shorts or joggers at home.
Okay. What
Yeah.
if you're cold?
Joggers. Yes.
Oh, joggers. Okay.
I don't have the
Gotta fit those.
dedicated pajama pants.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This
I
will be
did
the-
not
this will
prep
be
for
our-
this part
This
of
will be
the
our
show.
clip for the day. Bree, we'll put this up
Yeah.
on nice clothes talk. All right. Let's talk before we get to a few leftover questions from yesterday, Zach. Our friends at Mortgage CS. Mortgage CS. Actually, let me figure out which of the Mortgage CS reads we're doing. Oh, the competitive one. Today's real estate market is ultra competitive, people. Prospective home buyers, perhaps just like you, are missing out on opportunities to win the perfect home. But why? Why could it be? Well, it's because you don't have Mortgage CS in your corner. It may be news to you, but the mortgage company you choose matters more than ever. Even if you are already in the market, you can still explore your options with Mortgage CS. This is home financing, not a marriage. Come on, don't be afraid to jump ship. You may be shocked at how much money you can save. Mortgage CS is an independent mortgage broker in the Philly area. This means that they are not beholden to any particular bank. They're going to do what's best for you, not what is best for the banks. Ben and Alec at Mortgage CS will ensure you have a rock-solid pre-approval, and they'll take the time to explore anything you want. What a novel idea. That's why Mortgage CS is the mortgage concierge service. That's what the CS stands for, because we're talking like the best in-service customer service that they're going to give you. In the end, you will be so happy you texted Ben, the CEO of Mortgage CS, at 267-391-7425. There's a reason people win more with Mortgage CS, so call or text Ben now at 267-391-7425 and see for yourself. You can also go to www.mortgagecs.com/PHLY to check them out or view their 370-plus perfect 5-star reviews by searching Mortgage CS right now. The advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information.
It's Father's Day this weekend, and I imagine Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, a lot of fathers are going to be sitting back. What's the golf tournament that's on?
U.S. Open.
The U.S. Open. Thank you. I should know that. The U.S.
Pinehurst.
That's North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they're sitting back Sunday afternoon, and they're going to do what maybe their fathers did 30 years ago and what their sons might do 30 years from now, and that's crack open a nice ice-cold Miller Lite, because a lot has changed over the years. One thing that hasn't is the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that hasn't changed is that it's less filling. So what is the best thing about the original light beer? It's a Miller Lite has sparked this debate since 1975. We still haven't settled it because there's so many great things about Miller Lite. There's the taste, there's the fact that it's a light beer, but it's also the memories, the good times that it delivers. Like I said, it could be 1975, it could be 1995, it could be 2005, it could be 2024, it could be 2045, 21 years from now, and you can still sit back and pop open the ice cold Miller Lite and know that you're getting quality taste at less filling. Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like beer, less filling, and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. You don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLY Birds, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories per 12 ounces, fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer. The other thing that he talked about is he said that James Bradberry's been playing safety all along. Do you read into that as like this is a plan for them, or it's the same way you felt when Nick announced it last week?
I actually do read into it that there's maybe more of a likelihood of him staying than maybe we thought. I still think it's a little bit of posturing, but from Bradberry's perspective, if he was expecting to go somewhere else to play corner,
sure,
would he really be willing to, take up all his time in the spring playing safety? Presumably, if he's going to play safety, he has to change his body a little bit, right? So he wouldn't do that if he was expecting to go somewhere else to play corner. So from a buy-in standpoint, I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's not just something that they did for mandatory minicamp because he was reporting. We had heard that he had bid in Philly at times throughout the offseason program, and so this shows that this is something that they had planned going back a few months. That's a good nugget from James.
Really interesting. Yeah, and then also the note on Draymond Jones. not loving that he wasn't getting to rush as much. Just something to keep in our back pocket. All right, I'm going to give you a chance here from a leftover question from yesterday's mailbag episode.
Need some water,
Zach, for you to plug the book here, because Nick Field wants to know who were the most informative interview subjects for your upcoming book, and was there anyone who wouldn't agree to an interview?
Well, the thing about this book is that really it's been 13 years of interviews, right? And so 13 years covering the team. And as I wrote in the acknowledgement section,
there have been some new
there are new ones. As I wrote in the acknowledgement section, like, I don't want to single out any one executive coach or player, because I appreciate everyone's time, and like everyone has a story that I could try to share. But I would say, and I'll get more into this as the book gets closer. I spent a good deal of time talking to Jeffrey Lurie for this book, and I found his perspective fascinating. Joe Banner was really helpful. I did not cover Joe, and I knew Joe. I've spoken to him for a few stories over the years, and I have respect for really what he was ahead of his time in a lot of ways. And then I remember, frankly, I was always envious when you and Sheil would talk to him for the Ask Joe Banner column that you guys did on a weekly basis. But it was great hearing some of his memories, his perspective, catching up with guys like Brian Westbrook and Trey Thomas, Malcolm Jenkins. Right, there was a lot of good ones, and then there are some people I would have liked to speak to for the book that either didn't respond or didn't they didn't like flat out say, like, Zach, I'm not helping you, but I'm grateful for those that I've spoken with, or I'm grateful for those that I spoke to. But really, I can't emphasize this enough. It's like 13 years. So, I could. There's transcripts that I found from previous interviews with Nick Foles that was like really helpful, and it's like, oh, I remember talking to Nick about it's interesting. I had a conversation with Nick back in 2014, and I asked him, if you were at a dinner table with Donovan McNabb, Ron Jaworski, Randall Cunningham, what would you ask them? And his answer was like how they dealt with failure, or something along those lines. And so fast forward to the day after Nick Foles wins the Super Bowl, what's Nick Foles' message? Nick Foles' message is about dealing with failure.
Wow.
His whole thing was about dealing with failure. And so it was fascinating for me. Like, this was a comment that he made. Like, it was just he and I talking.
Something that clearly it was like,
and I remember,
something that he thought about a lot.
Yeah. And I remember specifically where I was. I was right outside the weight room in the Eagles facility, like the breezeway from the locker room. And he and I were catching up. I just spoken to, Jaworski, and I asked him, I thought it was like a good question, and so he talked about how they would deal with failure. So the Nick Foles section of the book, a lot of it's about like what a cousin Grace says you sound stuffy as hell. I don't know why. I'm sorry, but the Nick Foles section leads with the morning after the Super Bowl, when in his like pinnacle moment, he chooses to speak about failure and like how failure has helped shape him. And so then when I go back and I'm reading my transcripts, and I said, wow, like 2014, he brought this up. This is, and so you can kind of link those two. So I bring that up as a way of saying there are different things from over the years that somebody says something at a given time, and then it's like a seed for how it turns out years later. And there's stuff like, with whether it's Jason Kelsey or with Brandon Brooks, like things like you Zach Ertz, you kind of combine different things that you've heard from them in interviews throughout the years, and perhaps it's a rationalization, but I actually think it's true. Sometimes that's better than like if you speak to someone 10 years after the fact and you say, because we all, I found this out with my Super Bowl book. I say that it sounds kind of pompous when you put it that way, but the way people remember things looking back
Sure.
is a lot different than the way it was in real time. So, for instance, if in 2017, during the Super Bowl, and in 2018 when I'm writing that book, if you ask people like, what'd you think when Nick Foles took over? It's a lot different than like in the moment what it was. So sometimes the best stuff you get is like the real time interviews you have in the moment, and that's why like I try to keep all my transcripts and keep as many.
Let's go inside baseball here.
Yeah.
How does that work? You have all your transcripts like on Google Docs. What do we get? Let's for the aspiring journalists.
In my
you transcribe
on my
everything.
Computer. Well, I mean, fortunately, the Eagles transcribe all the coach interviews. But what's like really helpful is each year for the past decade, outside of the pandemic year, around the time of like once minicamp's over, you sit down with the head coach. You get them for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it may be. It varies, and those are like really good. Those are really good transcripts there. When I was at the Inquirer, and even at the Athletic, I would try to do a big story on the quarterback before each season, like taking the temperature of a quarterback. And so it's transcripts, but you can also go through all those stories. So I went back and I read like different Michael Vick stories or Carson. I should mention Carson Wentz. There's a lot in there on Carson Wentz, and I was in Bismarck, North Dakota, and I was in Fargo, North Dakota, and then I spoke to Carson at different stages of his career, and so and then you kind of see like the way it ended. So it kind of puts a lot of those things together.
Love it.
Thank you.
The book, Zach, The Franchise.
Yep.
Comes out September 24th. Let's get those pre-orders in.
And I have some I have cool news about it that I will break it on this show. Okay. I will share it on this show maybe tomorrow or Friday. I think you know what it is. But like and then I'll put it out on social thereafter. But
you're gonna go show over social. Good for you. You're growing.
But
it finally means something to you.
No, but it's a cool thing about someone who's a part of this book that I'm really excited to share with the audience. And then I will. And then also, as we get closer, I am going to work out a system that if you are interested in a signed copy of the book, like you can message me and I will send you the signed copy and you can just Venmo me the book.
Yes, one of the questions from yesterday from Go Birds was, if I buy your new book, can I have an awkward hug that lingers 2 seconds too long?
No, I'm not doing any awkward. Not doing any awkward hugs.
You won't make a hug for book purchase transaction?
I'll do a firm handshake. You gotta be very careful this day and age. Like,
what does that mean?
What?
What does that mean?
You can't just go hugging people randomly, like,
Well, this person is coming. This is a consensual situation. They're asking for the hug.
I would prefer a handshake. I can do a handshake.
Maybe they don't want a handshake.
I can do the wave. I don't know. You gotta be careful.
I'm sorry. This is the wave. This theater move. You can give him the wave.
That was. I don't know what you want me to say. You want me to hug people? I'll hug people. I'm just trying to.
I do.
Yeah. Poor Jam says ZB doesn't want to get canceled. Definitely. The last thing I'll ever be is canceled. Like I
mean, don't speak it into existence.
Yeah. I'm trying to be. I try to be very.
In this day and age,
professional.
Can't be hugging people. What a take. Right.
Someone says he's been listening to too much Sebastian. I can never listen to too much Sebastian Maniscalco. He's awesome. You a Sebastian fan? No? Real quick, it's too much about me. What are you watching these days?
Well, the show is over.
Okay. No, sorry. So we focus on me and my drawers, but I can't ask you one question.
I told you about my drawers.
About what you're watching.
Yeah, we need a new thing to watch. We're making our way through season 3 of Hacks.
Okay.
Top Chef, but we need a new thing in the rotation.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thank you again to James Palmer for giving us some breaking news, some deep insight into Vic Fangio and how the Eagles are viewed around the NFL. We look forward to getting James back at some point. That was a lot of fun. Back tomorrow at noon, Friday at noon as well. For Zach and Bree on the ones and twos, we thank everybody for listening and watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.